he recommends a true integration of vocational education with mainstream education and no hard separation between the vocational and academic stream. There have been other education policies in the past which have laid out importance of vocational education, but not in as clear terms in terms of the operationalization of it and other, addressing some very fundamental issues in that, as in the National Education Policy 2020. Normally, when you hear the word vocational education, you think only about plumbing, carpentry, gardening, welding, and all that. But vocational education is as much about life skills, as you are doing it, or as much about the curriculum as well. So, for example, we have learned Pythagoras theorem, right? When in the life have you used Pythagoras theorem since learning that, in the 9th or 10th grade geometry, whatever. But if you look at a ramp, which is constructed by a mason, that is Pythagoras theorem. The slope which is decided, or the length of that ramp which is decided, that is exactly Pythagoras theorem actually. We learned, say, area of cylinder, which is pi r square multiplied by the length, in that. But once again, we never used it or never thought how it can be used in real life. But say you have a cow and say you are agriculture or you're a farmer and there's a cow in your, shed. The feed requirement which is there for the cow is proportional to the area of the stomach, and that stomach is like a cylinder. So if you literally, measure the girth of the cow, multiply that by the length of the stomach, and there is an indexing factor which is there, you'll exactly find out how much feed is needed, by that cow, right? So to me, rather than looking at vocational education as only sort of, learning plumbing, carpentry, all these things like that, it equally helps you to understand and apply the academic principles which you have learned in the schools in a much better way. One is the introduction of vocational education from grade 6 onwards as an exposure to various, various skills and trades. There is an introduction of 10 days internships as well with local businesses, which is really a very, very welcome step. It also aims to introduce vocational education in at least 50% of the schools by 2025. Of course, where the resources will come from and other things, that is another part, but at least, it aims that. And I think what is most important is that it does take the school outside of the school and seriously treats the local businesses as a potential training center or learning ground as well. It also treats local craftsmen as a teacher, which was never the case before. And there is a provision for a short-term training course for the local craftsmen to even teach in the school. And last, which is a very innovative sort of idea, is the whole academic credit bank. That you are able to learn something, add to the credit, learn something new, go and work, come back and work, and all those flexibility which it gives. So from student point of view, I think it is going to be quite a joy of learning per se in that. It also gives them a real life opportunity to sort of try out before stepping into the real world. Now, if you look at it, we all know Javed Habib, right? I mean, he started as a barber at the age of 16 before he became a hairdresser, okay? Or Vikas Khanna, who started as a cook at the age of 14-year-old before he became a chef. Or, Manish Malhotra, who started as a tailor as a 21-year-old college student before he became a fashion designer, right? So you can see that all these, names which we revere today were in a very unglamorous profession like tailoring and cooking and hairdressing and other things too. But now if you look at it, they are like iconic brands one can look at. And I think, but they did it because of their passion. They did it because of backing from the family. They did it because of the surrounding around that. But now bringing that into a formal education system will certainly go a long way. Now, if I look at it from the school's point of view or from the education sector point of view, The previous studies have shown that whenever you introduce such skill-based education or such kind of learning, the attendance goes up, the dropout rate goes down, enrollment is sort of going up, the pass percentage of the students are going up, their understanding of the academic concepts also it goes up, right, in the whole process. There are 2-3 things which we wish that they can be addressed in the implementation framework as well. One is that treating vocational education as applied learning, because right now we are looking at the children who are in 6th to 12th grade, which is basically, you can say, about 12 years old to 18 years old. And most of the time vocational education is being looked at only as a means to get employment or livelihood. Whereas the vocational education is as good as any other applied way of learning. We all say that you can learn through sports, you can learn through music, you can learn through drama, you can learn through many other ways. So similarly, treating vocational education as applied learning, a channel of applied learning, is something which should be emphasized. Otherwise, we are not doing a complete justice to what vocational education can do in a student's life, right? So I would think that is one thing which can be looked at. Second, I think the focus on entrepreneurship. Currently, much more focus on the wage employment and other things too. And I know the policy talks about bringing the local entrepreneurs and local small businesses as a sort of teacher or as a trainer, or students going and working with the local businesses, which itself can indirectly sort of promote entrepreneurship, but giving it a formal sort of weightage in the policy itself to the entrepreneurship would have certainly helped. And third and the last thing I would say that the national qualification skill framework compliance norms. Now, all the vocational education in the country is supposed to adhere to the NSQF, or the National Skills Qualification Framework norms. But most of those norms have been formulated keeping into mind an 18 plus person who is sort of out of school, will undergoing a short-term training program at a skill development center, but not for a student who is 12 to 16 years old, or who is going to undergo this program for longer number of years, and at such a massive scale, right, in this. So I would say that, like everything else in life, it starts with vitamin M, right? Money at the end of the day. Where the money is going to come from, and especially for vocational education, which is something new, which is not happening even in 5% of the schools today. And if you want to go from 5% to 50% in 5 years, it's a huge resource requirement which is going to be there, right, in that. And we will need to look at innovation model like that. It doesn't have to happen in the school itself. Why can't you can tie up with a local business, and you say that for one semester, a student will entirely work in that business and get a credit for a subject there, right? So that I don't have to set up a lab in the school, I don't have to hire a teacher in the school or a trainer in the school. So that is, I think, one thing which we'll have to look at. Secondly, building the state's capacity. Unlike academic, mainstream academic education, where states know thoroughly well how to do curriculum, how to train teachers, how to recruit teachers, how to conduct assessments, how to sort of write books about it, and of course certification and otherwise. Vocational in majority of the states is not as developed as on the academic side, right? So those enabling institutions which need to be there on the government side, which can carry out all these functions, which will be utmost necessary. Of course, there is NCERT, there are multiple central level institutions which are training the state bodies to sort of do these functions. But unless states themselves develop the capacity, it is not going to be easy. Third thing, I think in the past, we have seen that the majority of the vocational education efforts have failed because not being able to maintain the linkage between the local employers and the sort of your curriculum and the delivery of instructions and other things too. So how do we involve them right from day zero, the local employers and other things?